Welcome back, everybody. This is Paul again. This is the fifth of my series about esoteric studies. And in the earlier segments, we were just exploring a little bit about the attitude of desire to learn, how to just relax and cultivate a pure, non-reaction type of mentality, try to understand, try to reflect, and to clean out the body and just basically be, try to live a harmonious life so that you can just kind of get answers. And I'm going to talk a bit about answers right now because, obviously there's a lot of really amazing questions that human beings normally have. We just want to know about our life and souls and God and not God or whatever, and we want to know about the geometry, we want to know about so many subjects. And over the centuries there's been lots of studies and people have studied different things and they've written about them. And I think one of the reasons that some things are so-called esoteric is not because there's any secret about it, it's just that there were different kinds of inner explorers and different kinds of sages and previous civilizations and people who traveled, and they had something to say about meditation, the human body and the human brain, and they had very interesting things to say. But the problem is hardly anybody wants to study it. Like, okay, sometimes you go up to somebody and you try to explain a little bit about astronomy, for example, and you say, you know what, just the next time you go out at night, just go out in the evening and take a look up there for a while and just, wow. I mean, it's like, whoa, your mind goes tilt. So, okay, well, that's great, and it's fun and everything, but then you don't want to think about it. But tell you what, there's a lot of subjects that over the centuries and thousands of years, people said, maybe I'd like to study that subject. And one of the subjects that I found is very, very fascinating is the subject of sound. Another one is electricity, electromagnetism, light. Just understanding what ancient cultures said about the human mind, because they had a lot of time. I mean, we have a lot of distractions these days. I'll tell you, a lot of people growing up today, I feel really sorry for them because from the day they're born, basically, there's so-and-so and grandma and everybody want to diddle-daddle, listen to this, look at this, put this to your mouth, eat this, whatever. We're taking you here and there. We're going to teach you how to believe and whatever. And the poor kid, like, holy cow, I just got here and all of a sudden, like, they pushed on my buttons and tweaking me and taking me everywhere. How are you going to get any answers if you don't reflect? Now, in past civilizations, maybe they didn't have TV, and they didn't have as many people, and there weren't as many distractions. And I've been in some of those kind of places, like the Himalayas, very quiet. People walk around, explore, think, feel, talk, meditate, observe. They came up with a lot of very interesting information from that observation. So again, esoteric studies, really, all the answers that we really need come from within. I'm a firm believer in that, and the answers that I might seek might be different things that you are seeking. Just like I studied electricity, I like to study about colors, I like to study about sound, I like to study about ancient history. I like to study the stars and astronomy and astrology. All those kind of things fascinate me. So the answers that we particularly need are really going to be just specific to us. And there's a phrase from the Hermetica that says, if you make your questions verbal, if you express your questions, they will be answered. And again, in the previous segment I was talking about using the mirror, the mind as a mirror, to reflect and to kind of gather information, because one of the problems is, like, there are certain kinds of telescope, for example, and they can only see a very, very, very narrow band. And that's all they can see. And even within that, they're only looking at the visible, not the ultraviolet and the infrared and so on. So what we want answers to and the way we perceive has something to do with our openness and our reflectivity. There are people, for example, there's a beautiful phrase, discussion in one of the Upanishads in which this very eager student decided he wanted to go and he wanted to answer this question about death. And then the guy, his teacher said, oh, no, don't ask about that one, because, for the answer to that question, you're going to have like, oh my, don't even think about it, And this guy kept persisting, and he wants the answer. I don't want to know about death. So then he sends him off to the so-called god of death, and there's a whole thing that went on, and talks about basically an interesting concept, like an inchworm comes to the end of a blade of grass, and it's coming up there and coming up there, and then it looks and it goes, okay, now I'm going to go to the next blade of grass. Just like that, like a consciousness within our body. Just like the way, for example, in Tibet, yogi or a monk might say, okay, my next lifetime, I'm already deciding that I'm going to be born here or there, or whatever. Sort of a conscious, forward expression of the being, and I say it because that's one question that a lot of people want to ask about. But the more important question really is, okay, what about our life? What is going on while we're alive here? I mean, really. Every moment, things happening, and sooner or later it's going to be over. Never know. So, what I basically try to tell people that I talk to is that to get your own answers, you have to look within, you have to reflect, and you have to just kind of like do some intelligent observation, intelligent question asking, and then somewhere deep inside when you're quiet, the understanding will just come. And the questions that persist in people most is, how can I have peace? How can I be feeling? How can I understand and have a resolution, you might say, with these age-old questions? Because if our life is totally based on fear, like going down a roller coaster, I mean, if you're in a feeling where every second you're terrified because you're in this vehicle and it's just going faster and faster and faster and faster. Sometimes it feels like that. And then these people who ride the roller coaster and they just don't even, they're just like, hey, you know what? Nothing's going to happen. So, part of having our own answers is a breakthrough within us to say, look, I'm going to have a release within so that understanding can come to me. And I've talked a lot about other things in other segments, and I welcome feedback, and I'm interested in having a dialogue with people. But ultimately, the so-called esoteric studies, what's esoteric for you? Study some interesting things that I've mentioned, sound, music, and there's a lot of fascinating things to learn about our existence. So again, I have a limit here of time, and go on to the next segment.